Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a high-stakes, largely invisible battleground. When you think of a college or university campus, you probably picture, ivy-covered brick buildings, bustling libraries, maybe students hanging out on the quad. What you probably don't picture is a massive, highly vulnerable digital fortress that is just constantly under siege by cybercriminals. But honestly, that is exactly what higher education institutions have become. Today, we're going to investigate why colleges are facing unprecedented data security risks and exactly how financial and sustainability standards are actually forcing them to track and report these vulnerabilities.
Okay, let's dive into this. Why on earth are colleges such massive targets for data theft? You'd think multinational banks or, massive healthcare networks would be the primary focus, right? Well, it turns out colleges are uniquely positioned as high-value targets because of what they hold and how they operate. According to the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board, or SASB, which is the organization that sets the metrics for how schools actually report their risks, the exposure here is absolutely immense.
Just think about the sheer volume and the types of highly sensitive student information stored on campus servers. We're talking about a literal treasure trove here. Institutions process and store a massive mix of intellectual property and personally identifiable information. They've got national identification numbers, highly sensitive vaccination records, intricate admission information, and incredibly detailed demographic data. Think about it for a second. This could literally be your personal information just sitting on these servers, gathered over years and years of your academic life.
Now, what's really interesting is how strictly personal data is actually defined by official accounting and sustainability standards. The definition is basically any information that relates to an identified or identifiable living individual. And here's the real kicker. The guidelines specifically note that various seemingly random pieces of information, which when collected together can actually lead to the identification of a particular person, that totally constitutes personal data too. It's like a giant puzzle. It's a very broad, very protective definition.
But having all that data, that's really only half the problem. The other half is the campus culture itself. The SASB standards highlight a massive structural vulnerability, and honestly, it's heavily ironic. It's the open, collaborative environment of many campuses. Think about the fundamental mission of higher education for a second. It's literally designed to foster the free exchange of ideas, open access to research, and collaboration across borders. But that beautiful, traditional academic mission, it creates some really harsh modern realities. An open network designed for sharing is just inherently difficult to lock down against malicious activities. It's basically a hacker's playground.
So, when that open environment is compromised, the fallout is devastating. It creates this rapid domino effect. Step one is the security breach itself, maybe caused by malicious actors, or honestly, sometimes just simple student negligence. That directly triggers step two, resulting in what the standards call significant social externalities. Specifically, identity fraud and theft affecting real students. That leads right into step three, which is the reputational damage. The public perception of the school's security measures just absolutely plummets. And finally, step four, a sudden, severe difficulty in attracting and retaining students. If a prospective student knows an institution can't protect their national ID or health records, they're just going to enroll somewhere else, for sure.
And beyond those social externalities and the huge reputational hit, there is a massive financial toll. A breach brings massive costs to fix the immediate mess, and even more costs to upgrade systems so it doesn't happen again. For an institution that's already balancing a super tight budget just to provide basic instruction and student services, a cyber attack can be completely financially crippling.
Which brings us to a really crucial question. If you're an administrator running a university or an investor looking at a for-profit education institution, how do you actually measure this risk? How do you know if a college is taking this seriously or just crossing their fingers and hoping for the best? You obviously can't just take their word for it. You need standardized metrics.
And this brilliantly illustrates the solution. The data security section under the SASB standards lays out the mandatory, strict, quantitative, and qualitative disclosures that institutions absolutely must report. It provides real transparency into how well they're defending against the campus cyber threat.
Let's look at the actual math here, starting with metric number one. An institution must explicitly disclose the total number of data breaches they identified during the reporting period. The standard defines a breach as any unauthorized occurrence that jeopardizes the confidentiality, integrity, or availability of their information systems. It's basically a baseline count. How many times were the walls actually breached? But, as we know, not all breaches are created equal. So we move to the second critical metric, calculating the exact percentage of those breaches that were specifically personal data breaches. Like if a hacker accesses an empty server, okay, that's one thing. But if they access stored demographic data or vaccination records, that is a personal data breach. The standards are incredibly rigorous here. They actually even specify that if encrypted data is stolen along with the encryption key, it fully counts as a breach. No loopholes.
So that leads to the third, and perhaps most vital metric, reporting the total number of unique students directly affected by these personal data breaches. This metric translates a technical IT failure into a real-world human impact. It tells investors and the public exactly how many individuals had their lives disrupted by identity fraud risks just because of the institution's security lapses.
But it's not just about counting disasters after the fact. The standards also require institutions to open up their playbooks and transparently discuss their entire data lifecycle. How are they identifying vulnerabilities in the first place? Are they asking for your consent before collecting your data? And crucially, how long are they keeping it? Holding on to old data forever is a huge, totally unnecessary risk. They also must detail exactly what corrective actions they take after a breach actually occurs, like, say, rolling out changes in staff training or overhauling their security technology.
The bottom line is, institutions can no longer hide behind their ivy-covered walls. They have to actively manage, measure, and transparently report on their digital defenses. The open, collaborative environment of higher education is a beautiful thing, absolutely, but it's also a cybercriminal's absolute dream. Based on the metrics we've explored today from the SASB standards, I'll leave you with this provocative thought. If you were to demand the data security disclosures for your own alma mater, or maybe a prospective university you're looking at, how confident are you that they are truly protecting your data?